Hey guys, it's James here, and in today's bass guitar lesson, I'm going to talk about the dead note problem and how to fix it. So if you're interested in how to use dead notes and ghost notes really effectively on the bass guitar, make sure you check out this lesson all the way to the end. Hey guys, it's James here from eBassGuitar, and today I want to talk about a thing that I called the dead note problem, and I want to show you how to go about fixing it too. Now, dead notes on the bass guitar are one of the coolest effects that we have. If you're not familiar with the dead note, it's very simply where we literally just play a percussive effect rather than a note. So let me play you a standard note like this. What we can do is just literally lift our finger off like this and play the note like that, and that is a very simple dead note. You might also hear it called ghost note too, but I think dead note is the most accurate way of describing it. And we as bass players can use dead notes to really kick our bass lines along. But this is fraught with problems, which I'm going to explain with a second, and you have to learn how to use dead notes the most effectively so that you can use them with taste. But before I dig into that lesson content, I want you to know that it's a completely free PDF that comes with this lesson. All you need to do is click the link below. Seeing the stuff written out today will be super helpful for you because it's quite subtle, the changes we're making between each exercise. And I always find having this stuff written out is really helpful. So let me tell you a very quick story from when I was 16 years old and I discovered the dead note problem. I was on a jazz course here in the UK with 7 or 8 bass players sitting in the room. And the teacher said to us, "Can you play a 12-bar blues to one of the guys in the room?" And he literally picked up his bass and did this kind of thing. Which to me sounded so super cool, being a kind of green 16-year-old. But then the teacher did something super insightful after that, which was say to him, "Can you play that without the dead notes and the skips?" And what he couldn't do was play a whole 12 bars consistently without the dead notes or without any skips or percussive effects. And this is the crux of the dead note problem. The dead note problem becomes this thing that we use all of the time, and it actually can become something that many bass players can find it hard to get out of because it's so ingrained in them. And the reason dead notes work well in your bass line is when you use them sparingly, and sparingly is the absolute key. So what this means is we need to have control of our dead notes, and in this lesson I'm going to show you how to do just that. So the critical thing that you need to do to start getting control of how you use dead notes so you can choose whether to use them or whether not to use them is always have a core bass line. And the idea of this core bass line came from the brand new Blues Jam Tracks albums that we've just released at eBassGuitar, and there is a track on there called Level 62 which has a groove a little bit like this. And I had to write this out, and what I needed to do was find out the chord notes which sat within that. And what I did was I stripped it right back to the simplest groove, and this is the simplest groove in there which has no dead notes. So I'm going to play that to you first off, and it sounds like this. The most important thing is that you can play that consistently for 12 bars without putting any dead notes in. There are many bass players which would find that a challenge. So what I want to do is first of all teach you that bass line very slowly. Then we're going to go through 4 exercises beyond that to add in the dead notes. So let's take our core bass line apart. We are in the key of B here, which is at the 2nd fret on the A string. And what I want you to do to begin with is play 2 8th notes on the B. So dum-bum, dead simple. 1, 2. And then on beat 2 and 2E, we are going to put 2 16th notes. So that is an open D to a D sharp. So we go from the minor third to the major third. Then on beat 3, we are going to put this pattern in here, which sounds like da da ba, ba ba ba, which is 2 16th notes like this on an E, a 16 note rest, and then on the last 16th note of the third beat, we hit an F natural, which sounds like da da da, da da da, da da da. So we have this to begin with, which is kind of a chromatic idea. Then on the very last 8th note of the bar, beat 4, and we have an F sharp. So bum bum bang, da 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 bum. So once you've got the core groove down there with absolutely no extraneous dead notes creeping in there, we want to gradually start adding dead notes, just one dead note at a time in a really disciplined way. And I'm going to show you how to do that now. So we're going to take exactly the same pattern of notes, but we're going to add one dead note in before the last note that we play. And the last note we play is on beat 4 and that is an F sharp. And on the 16th note before that, we are going to play a dead note which sits just under our 4th finger, like that. Now the trick with dead notes is just to make sure that you have all 4 of your fingers down there, because you don't want any crazy harmonics like you might have just heard me do there. That's the trick of making dead notes sound really good. So I'm going to show you how this works by just adding in one dead note just before beat 4. I meant beat 4 and where I added the dead note in there. So that is the first place we want to add the dead note in. And we just want to loop that round and round to begin with. So once more, just with by myself, 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's move on to the third example now. So once you've got one dead note in place, it's time to add a second dead note. And where we're going to add this second dead note is right at the end of the second beat on the last 16th, just before the note E that we played. So let me play this to you so you can hear what it sounds like. 1, 2, 3, 4. You should gradually hear this starting to get a little bit more funky each time, and that is the beauty of this system that I am showing you here. So let me take this apart very slowly for you. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the two dead notes, or the dead note on then the 2 E's, and then we go into the phrase that we already know. So it's So get that good and get that looping round. That'll take a little bit of discipline to get into place. If you're enjoying these ideas, make sure you check out the Bass Lab Plus over at eBassGuitar, where I share lots of tips and ideas just like this one. And there is a whole course there for the beginner to intermediate bass player. So if you're looking to get out there and start jamming or playing with your friends, and you really want to learn the foundational concepts like how to learn songs, how to learn bassline theory, how to create a practice routine, make sure you jump over to eBassGuitar.com, check out the Bass Lab Plus and grab your free 14-day trial. So let's move on to the last 2 examples of this lesson. So we're going to add in another dead note, and this time is right at the end of the bar on beat 4 and. So let me play it to you. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's take apart that last beat. We already have that first dead note in there on, and then we have the F sharp. And then what I'm doing is I'm pulling back and playing a dead note C sharp. It's just over the C sharp to get me back to the B at the beginning of the bar. So we now have 3 dead notes in this pattern. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can see we're gradually ramping up the intensity. So I wanted to take it to one more level, and example 5, what I'm going to do is actually replace one of our chord notes with dead notes, because this is something you can do as long as you're 100% aware of the original chord groove. You can start to adapt that a little bit. So what I'm going to do is take this phrase and make it the original note B and then two dead notes 16ths, and then put it with the D to D sharp. So from this, and so you can see how the intensity is ramping up here. So let me play you the whole phrase together. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So that is example number 5, which has 5 or 6 dead notes in it now. So let's compare that to the original one. Now let's put... So you can see that there are really some effective ideas with using dead notes here, but we've got to have a huge amount of control how we're using it, because it's critical that we use them in the right circumstance. And there's certain styles of music, like old-fashioned rock and roll, for instance, where just dead notes don't seem to work as well. But if you're going into the funkier styles, they can really work very, very effectively, but you don't want to be doing it all the time. I tend to use dead notes when I'm ramping up the groove. So if things are a little bit chilled out, I will be sitting on a very simpler groove. And if things are really going for it, the band is really cooking, I'll be doing something more. So there's loads to play about with here. So we're coming to the end of the lesson today, and I actually want to demonstrate this in context to you with a backing track. But before we do this, make sure you check out the greats which use these techniques. The two which come to mind is Jaco Pastorius. He used this to great effect on the track Come On, Come Over by Sam and Dave, or with Sam and Dave on vocals, and of course anything by Tower of Power with the incredible Francis Rocco Prestia on bass. But anyway, let me show you how this stuff sounds. I'm going to specifically start off very simple using the first core idea that we discussed, and then gently ramp it up over a couple of choruses using the track Level 62 from the Blues Jam backing track album that you can find over at eBassGuitar.com. So guys, that's the end of today's bass guitar lesson. If you've enjoyed the lesson, don't forget to grab the free PDF that comes with this lesson. There's a link in the description below. If you're looking to push your bass playing onto that next stage, make sure you jump over to eBassGuitar.com and grab your free 14-day trial for the Bass Lab Plus membership. And if you've enjoyed this lesson, give us a like and share. Cheers. I've been James from eBassGuitar, and I'll catch you next time.